Yes, I can hear you, Rob. Yeah, we've got breaking news here. It's open workouts here for Tyson Fury against Dillian Whyte for the WBC World Heavyweight title. But Dillian Whyte is not here. He will not be in this open workout.
People are saying this reflects bad on Dillian. And they may have a point, but Dillian's a prize fighter. He's not a promoter. He's not putting a show on. Frank Warren is putting the show on. It's not like Dillian is refusing to turn up at press conferences and media workouts for no reason. Each time he hasn't showed up, it's been explained by the pundits. Oh, well, he's not happy with the split, the contractual agreement, the ticket allocation. Frank Warren is the only quote-unquote major promoter who you see in a big fight like this is happening to. And that's because his man management of the whole event has been awful. He's been critiqued for how he's treated Dillian, which led to him arguing with Dillian's lawyer on national radio. That's embarrassing. He's been critiqued for the undercard, which is whack, which he could have resolved if he didn't treat Dillian how he's treating him. Maybe he could have worked a little bit with Eddie Hearn, Dillian's fight-by-fight promoter, to fill out the card. He could have even had Alan Babbage or Fabio Wardsley, who Dillian manages. He could have easily had them on there. Any one of the two. In terms of Frank's own fighters, he hasn't got Anthony Yard or Daniel Dubois on there. How are you going to have a 94,000 crowd, the biggest crowd in the history of British boxing? No Anthony Yard, no Daniel Dubois. So, Queensbury's heavyweight roster, you got Tyson Fury, who's on the card, obviously, headlining. You got Joe Joyce, Daniel Dubois, but you put David Adilier, your third or fourth best heavyweight, on the bill. Apparently they don't know Dillian Whyte in America, but Deontay Wilder spent so long ducking Dillian, they must know something of him, I'm sure. But the undercard they're trying to pass off over there just ain't going to fly. Like, I was listening to Sporting Icons do a video and he's saying, there's no American fighters on there and you're going to sell that pay-per-view over there with that card? And the thing is, the British fighters that are on there, we don't even know them over here. Tyson Fury, in the British press, is being hounded by the Daniel Kinahan connection. America are not interested in the fight. It's not going to do no pay-per-view numbers over there. They're not interested in it. Some of that is sour grapes because the way Tyson Fury handled Deontay Wilder perhaps ended his career. Bob Arum claims he's got mild COVID symptoms. He's not turning up. But I saw Bob talking a few weeks ago. I know he's old, so he might be ill, but he was gearing himself up, looking forward to going over there. Yeah? The reason Bob is not going, Tyson Fury has one fight left in his contract. And Tyson has not denounced his association to Daniel Kinahan. Bob Arum has declared he doesn't fuck with Daniel, MTK, Probellum, anything he believes is associated to them, right? So he can't go up there and be pally-pally with Tyson Fury when Tyson Fury hasn't flat out denounced his association or his relationship with Daniel. He can't, after all the talk he's done and after all the people Bob has tried to throw under the bus, including Frank Warren. So after Frank cocked up all this shit, he decided to take it to the stage himself and sing Dillian Happy Birthday. I'm like, oh my. So I don't need to go to BoxRec. They've had 2 fights apiece in the last 2 years. Fury fought Wilder twice. Dillian fought Povetkin twice. They've both been on the canvas. Fury twice, Dillian once. When Dillian hit the canvas, he was counted out. Fury got back up and won by knockout. So you could say the psychological damage from being flawed would be less with Tyson Fury, but not necessarily, you know. Deontay Wilder hits hard. We've got to give him credit on that. He hits hard. And maybe after the second fight, he didn't think Wilder could hurt him again like that. But he did. A lot of people are saying that Dillian is going to have to just accept getting outpointed and grit it out and then hopefully land a punch. I disagree. Dillian needs to be beating up Tyson Fury from early. Dillian needs to win this fight in style. Don't be relying on gutting it out and letting Tyson build up a massive lead and then hopefully you tag him with something in the championship rounds. No, he needs to win this in style. The first objective is to subdue. The next is to silence the Fury contingency. Have the commentator saying, oh, I wasn't expecting that. We didn't know Dillian could do this. Have them questioning Tyson Fury. Has the training camp went all right? Has he underestimated Dillian? If Dillian wins this, it's going to be similar to Ruckman versus Lewis. It's going to be a similar thing. You know, they blamed it on Lennox being on the set of Ocean's 11, was it, or whatever it was, with George Clooney. Is that the film where there's a scene of him fighting Vladimir Klitschko? Anyway, they say he was sidetracked by that, and that's why he got knocked out. I remember Ruttman's cornerman, because Ruttman looked very calm in between the intervals. See how you calm like that? I'm paraphrasing. You calm like that, stay like that. You know what I mean? Stay, and that's how Dillian has to be. Like he's unfazed by the whole occasion, yeah? Show us why you didn't engage Tyson Fury in the press conference. You didn't turn up to the media workout. Why you wasn't going to play his game. I want to see that focus, that steely focus. I want to see it. You see, I believe Tyson Fury knows Dillian is a real threat. At the same time, his fans and the media have him as a huge favorite. His dad didn't want him to fight Dillian Whyte. Why? Well, John's paranoid and he was afraid Tyson wouldn't be up for the fight and get beaten. A lot of Tyson Fury's mind games consist of him doing a lot of stuff that is designed to try and take the pressure off him. Oh, I'm just clowning around. I'm not taking it serious. Look how serious they're taking it. You know, that's the kind of vibe he's trying to not only convince his opponent of, but convince himself that I can beat you without even taking it serious. But the roles are kind of changed. Wilder went radio silence in the press conference for the third fight. Fury was asking him, even though Wilder wasn't replying, well, if you're saying I done all this cheating and I couldn't beat you fairly, why are you doing all this training, get Malik Scott, got rid of Mark Breland and this and that? And now this fight here, Dillian is saying, well, if I'm this stocky plodder and I'm nothing and you're Muhammad Ali, Joe Louis all roll into one, why are you going into camp all serious if I'm that easy? If I was fighting a bum, I wouldn't bother to train, is what Dillian said.
Finally, what's your message to Fury ahead of Saturday?
Good luck and God bless you, and let's turn up and let's dust up. Let's give the fans one hell of a show. And let's give the fans one hell of a show. I ain't got nothing to lose, so that been my mindset in there. I ain't got nothing at all to lose, you know. I'm just the old me.
Dillian is trying to switch it on Tyson Fury and perhaps impart it into Tyson that you're the one under pressure. Now, can he do it? Fury hasn't been his jokey self. Is he up for it? Is he really up for it? He's hinted at retiring a few times from last year. Does he really want smoke like that? Does he really want to fight? Is it just going to take an opponent who can match his will and compete with his skill that upsets the odds? And is Dillian that guy? Is this a Jack Catterall, Josh Taylor situation, which I went in depth in studying? I don't think no one else studied that fight, pre-fight, like how I did. Not bragging, I just don't think they did. You cannot give yourself the fear factor. If you really believe Dillian is just this plodding bum who you can beat with one hand tied behind your back, or if this is what you've been telling yourself about Dillian for years, how do you change the mindset? I don't believe he believes Dillian is just a soft touch. I don't think he believes it. But he does condition his mind to minimize the ability of his opponents. So that way, he doesn't have that stress going into the ring. The whole bipolar thing, well, I don't know enough about these conditions to confront that. I think Tyson Fury goes into a zone. This is what he does. He goes into a zone. He doesn't care what he says. He tries to wind people up a lot. There's a lot of contradictions there because he doesn't care. Even if he said something that's going to contradict what he said 2 seconds ago, he'll just say it. Straight-faced. And then a lot of us will be up in arms. You just contradicted yourself. Don't you care? Don't you care? No, he doesn't care. We're wound up. But this fight's a little different. Dillian didn't attend the first presser and he didn't attend the media workout because he wasn't happy with the split and a few other things. The other theory was he was trying to avoid Tyson Fury's head games. Somebody asked Tyson Fury this week, have you missed not engaging with Dillian, trying to get inside his head? And he said, no, not really. Getting inside his head isn't important. When all people talk about is Tyson Fury's get inside your head game. You know, how he got in Klitschko's head. And he did get in Klitschko's head. I told Mr. Bashir before the fight, and I didn't predict Tyson Fury to win, right? I didn't predict it, but I said Tyson Fury is in Vlad's head. And Mr. Bashir, he didn't agree, but he said whether he's in his head or not, he's not going to win. He was in his head, and he did win. the head games he's played with Deontay Wilder, the back and forth with Derek Chisora. So to hear a man who has built a reputation of getting inside his opponent's head, all of a sudden he said it doesn't matter. And at the press conference, they was incredibly respectful. Like, these two are supposed to be the volatile British boxers, Dillian and Tyson Fury. They're supposed to go off and all types of verbal fireworks are supposed to go off. But it was John Fury who was more wound up than anybody. And when he was stepping to Team Dillian, when they were facing off, you saw Dean, he wasn't having it. Dean Whyte wasn't having it. And Tyson and Dillian had to calm both their entourages down and say, yo, stop all of that. Not a bad word said to each other through the whole press conference. I don't know what to make of that. Dillian went toe-to-toe verbally with Anthony Joshua. Dillian was rolling on the floor with Derek Chisora. And they pulverized each other verbally. So Tyson Fury is going to fight without the craziness, basically. Because he didn't even say he was going to knock Dillian out. He was talking about knocking Wilder out, knocking Klitschko out, I'm going to beat him. And he didn't say that with Dillian. He just kept saying it's going to be a great fight. He knows what Dillian's capable of. He knows what I'm capable of. We both trained hard. What is it? Does he actually take Dillian really serious? Because they spoke about the sparring sessions, living with each other, eating with each other, and he said sleeping with each other, which Dillian, you know what I mean, had to shut down quickly. Is Tyson Fury just being genuine here? Like, I can't afford to smack talk him or overlook him. It felt to me that he knew smack talking Dillian would be counterproductive because of their previous relationship. They know each other mentally. So smack talking is basically counterproductive. If they were that close, they'd probably seen each other at very vulnerable times during training, sparring, and just going through stuff as young men. And they've also seen each other at their best, sparring, looking good, knocking people out, outboxing people, being very confident, dominating the gym. They've probably seen both sides of each other. And contrary to belief, smack talking can potentially give you an edge, put some fire in your belly. It can do that. It can possibly get in your opponent's head. But if you overdo it, or if you do it at the inappropriate time, it also can drain a lot of your battery, take you out your game plan. Have they just both grown up? So we know they've been volatile characters in the past. You see, the guy who grows up, his priorities change from the guy who just a couple of years back was taking a lot of chances with his life. A lot has changed for this guy, Tyson Fury. A lot has changed. Yeah? Remember, AJ was the corporate guy, you know what I mean? All he cared about his money, he's a businessman. Well, I go into a few supermarkets, all I see is Furiosity drink. I don't know how well it's doing, but it's in there. And I'm sure he's got his hands in a few more corporate pies here and there. He might look at some of his past indiscretions with the British Boxing Board of Control when he got fined, or his conduct in some of the presses, and say, I'm not that guy no more. Now, you know, depending on what side of the fence you're on, that guy is funny, that guy's crazy, he's humorous, or he's an idiot. But one thing that can't be argued, he got the job done. That's corporate Fury, as I'm just going to tease in this monologue. Does corporate Fury get the job done against Dillian? Or the AJ influenced Fury, if you want. And you can say the same for Dillian. That could have went off. You know, these two a couple of years ago, who knows what could have happened. Dillian spends a lot of time in Portugal, training. He's with his dogs. He's not a roadman no more. He's a businessman, a boxer. Derek Chisora, don't even go through his history of madness when he was younger, but he doesn't get into all that no more. He'll still talk a bit of craziness here and there, but that's Derek. But he doesn't get into all the stuff he used to get into. They're all grown up now. Perhaps they don't need all that to get mentally ready for a fight. But what if one of them goes in the ring and find they do need Mad Dillian or Mad Fury, and Mad Dillian and Mad Fury don't respond? Nah, we're not showing up. This is your show. Mad Fury's taking a break. Mad Dillian's taking a break. What if they don't show up? What if the intensity ain't there? What if Dillian's been too comfortable in Portugal? He might be in shape, but is the killer instinct there? Sometimes the deterioration in a fighter isn't just, he's getting old. He's losing muscle definition. He's not as fast. Sometimes it's that mentality just isn't there no more. Just like you can't give yourself the fear factor if you don't genuinely fear your opponent. You can't make yourself something you were 10 years ago if that's not who you are anymore. You can't do it. What did Hagler say? And everybody quotes, it's hard to get up and train when you're sleeping in silk sheets or whatever. Yeah, of course it is. You're damn right it is. I'm rooting for Dillian, but I'm giving you this straight from the heart. For Dillian to win, he needs something that Tyson Fury is normally good at, not to be good. That's just how boxing is. That's just how life is. That's just how life is. And then he needs the ability to see what Tyson isn't doing, what he should be doing, and he has to be able to execute and exploit it. And you could argue the same thing for Fury. He needs Dillian not to do what he does normally well as well. But I feel Dillian needs it more than Fury does. Yeah? Everything is about timing. When you catch something or catch somebody. Why do I feel this point I'm making is more a need for Dillian than Fury? Well, Tyson is 6'8". He's not 9. 6'8", 84, 85-inch reach, big long legs. And when he wants to, he can make it very awkward for his opponent to get to him. And I've seen a lot of boxers, but the 6'8", 6'9", guys, they normally not coordinated. He's pretty coordinated, and his jab is a reliable weapon. He has certain physical tools which put him at an advantage over most heavies. That's why Dillian will need Fury to be not as proficient in certain departments, I say plural, or even just one, as he normally is. More than Tyson Fury will require that from Dillian. That's my opinion. Frank has to reflect on this and realize it's been a bit of a wasted opportunity, I mean, it wasn't till today I got to hear anything from Team Dillian. I got to hear from Harold the Shadow Knight. Xavier Miller is a very quietly spoken guy, so I'm guessing he wasn't desperate to get to the mic. I'm guessing. Frank has to realize, once you've got control of the purse bid, you're not just promoting Tyson Fury, you're promoting Dillian as well. It's up to you to make sure that everybody is satisfied with their situation, that they turn up to media workouts and press conferences. I mean, Frank's a vet. He should know this. The Americans don't seem interested in it. And to be honest, the media over here, they haven't got out of first gear with it. They're talking about Daniel Kinahan more than the fight. It's crazy. I was thinking about Team Dillian. Could this, okay, let's set this up. The Kronk style, ever since Lennox Lewis caught that right hand from Oliver McCall, the heavyweight division has had a heavy Manny Stewart Kronk gym influence. Manny was in the corner for Oliver McCall when he knocked out Lennox. And even before that, let me not forget, Manny Stewart was in the corner in the second fight where Evander Holyfield took back the world title from Riddick Bowe. Manny Stewart was in the corner. And after guiding McCall to victory, he became Lennox's trainer, who eventually got the belts back. Lennox retired. Manny took over the Vladimir Klitschko camp and set the ball rolling for that 10-year reign. Tyson Fury held the belt very briefly in 2015, came back in 2018. By 2020, he had the belts back with Emmanuel Stewart's nephew, Sugar Hill. And let's not forget, Dillian Whyte has Harold the Shadow Knight in his corner. He was in Team Lewis, Manny Stewart, way before Sugar Hill was even spoken about. And one thing I remember is watching Dillian's rematch with Povetkin. And Xavier Miller is a very softly spoken guy. And I'm sure that Harold the Shadow Knight is probably an assistant. But the experience he has and the authority his name carries, he did kind of overshadow, pardon the pun, the Shadow Knight kind of overshadowed Xavier Miller a little. And the authority in his voice, it had to have an impact on Dillian, having him there. And he's a great asset. I think the weight is critical for Tyson Fury's performance. John Fury's saying that he's coming in a stone lighter than he did last time out against Wilder. Is the yo-yo diet thing that he does ever going to catch up? These things normally catch up with fighters when they're in their 30s, when they just can't get away with cutting corners or weight maintenance. Dillian is just way more dense physically and heavier than Deontay Wilder. Dillian is one of the strongest opponents Tyson is going to come up against in his pro career so far. Just physicality. Fury has to box Dillian and he has to bang with Dillian. He's going to have to do both because, look, I don't care if he's lost a stone. I don't care what people want to say. He's not staying on his toes for the whole 12. He's just not. Two Brits fighting for the world title in the UK. We haven't had that since Bruno and Lennox Lewis. I'm all in. I'm all in. Even with the shitty undercard, Frank, I'm all in. Says here, though, that Echo Esselman's British and Commonwealth title defence versus Darren Tetley has been brought forward to take the place on the bill as Anthony Kakashi versus Jonathan Romero is off as Romero's visa didn't come through. I guess that's a slight improvement. A British and Commonwealth title fight. It is. It won't mean nothing across the pond though, but that improves the card. That does improve it. So all it took is the American media to put out a few hardcore headlines, $5 million bounties, and the FBI to throw some sanctions on Daniel Kinahan, and within weeks, Michael Conlan took his name off the website, off the fighters roster, Paddy Barnes, Bob Yalen resigned, and then MTK ceased all its operations. As a business, we have faced unprecedented levels of unfair scrutiny and criticism since the sanctioning by the US government of Daniel Joseph Kinahan. It's a matter of public record that Mr. Kinahan's involvement in MTK ceased in 2017, and despite repeated reassurances in this regard, unfounded allegations about his ongoing association with us and our fighters persist. Since leading promoters have now informed us that they will be severing all ties with MTK and will no longer work with our fighters, we have taken the difficult decision to cease operations at the end of this month. MTK prospered because we always put the long-term interests of our fighters at the heart of what we do. Our priority in the weeks ahead will be to ensure that our world-class boxers are supported to find new partnerships as swiftly as possible. MTK gyms are operated independently, so will remain open for the foreseeable future. Further announcements will be made in due course. Thank you to all fans who have supported us over the last decade. What can I say about this? One theory was Probellum just found Eurosport as a home. With the amount of fighters they were signing because of their connection to MTK, let's not bullshit around, right? There were a few people, Bob Arum definitely one of them, maybe Eddie, maybe Frank, maybe Al Heyman, who got a little threatened. Remember Barry McGuigan complaining that he lost Lee McGregor, Josh Taylor, Chantel Cameron, Frampton, and who else to MTK in a matter of weeks? Frank Warren lost Sonny Edwards, Troy Williamson, and some other fighters. I don't know if he lost them or he just gave them up. So basically, this is MTK with their management and advisory service, which is dirt cheap. Now they've got a legit broadcaster in Eurosport, right? They've got Queensberry fighters. They've got Matchroom fighters there. They've got contacts in Dubai and Bahrain. So the paper ain't short. The paper's not short, right? Daniel Kinahan's name associated to Terence Crawford. MTK managed Jamel Herring, Jojo Diaz. They got deals with Robert Garcia. They're international. And this is happening quick. They were signing fighters literally every fucking day. I'll tell you what, there's going to be a lot of boxers pissed off that MTK have folded. Yeah? Carl Frampton said they didn't charge him for management. They didn't charge him. Right? Their management and advisory services were a lot cheaper than whatever was the standard rate on the market. A lot cheaper. So for boxers who ain't making big purses, they're going to be pissed. Of course they're going to be pissed. Do you know how hard it is to get good management in boxing? That's what literally retires most boxers. They get the fuck out because for the most part, you'll just get used and abused until you have nothing left. I've been telling people Bob Arum is grimy. The worst grimy people are not the ones in the hood or on the ends. They're not. Bob is grimy. Like, just the other year, Bob was saying Kinahan is an advisor to MTK fighters and top rank fighters. He didn't care about Kinahan's criminal involvement. He said, the Irish authorities haven't told me anything. I don't have a problem working with him. Paraphrasing. This ain't about taking Kinahan down. This is about Kinahan, MTK, Probellum getting too big for their boots. Eurosport apparently have shelved fight nights amid scrutiny around Probellum boxing promotion and alleged crime lord Daniel Kinahan. Eurosport has dropped the final 2 Probellum shows of a 5-fight agreement. It was just a 5-fight agreement. So 3 shows and they're out of there. Who else is going to pick them up? Tell me a credible broadcaster who's going to pick them up. There is none. Look how long MTK were functioning without this big drive for people to disassociate themselves from them. And all of a sudden, MTK have gone, Probellum have gone, BAM! It's not just random like that. No way. You see when Barry McGuigan lost all them fighters to MTK? He became a man possessed with shutting them down because they're taking food out of his mouth. And if Bob Arum and the rest of them sense the same thing, of course they're going to take them down. Bob Arum has been pivotal in all of this. After Fury fights Dillian, Fury's contract is up. It was a 5-fight deal he had with Top Rank. And if they're looking to make the undisputed fight with either Usyk or AJ, they can now cut Bob Arum off. Frank Warren took Tyson Fury to Bob Arum because he didn't have no juice in America. But right now, Tyson Fury is big and ugly enough to fight his own battles without Bob Arum. But Bob threw them daggers into Daniel Kinahan, went public. Everybody else made template statements that their lawyer probably drafted up for them. We are cooperating. We are no longer associated. Bob started ad-libbing. Yo, Daniel told me he's got kids and he used to be involved in this and that, and I paid him this and that for this fight and that fight. He knows he might be out of the picture if Tyson Fury decides to carry on after the Dillian Whyte fight. That's if he wins. He knows he might be out of the picture, and he certainly isn't going to let this mobster get a piece of it if that's the case. Bob started ad-libbing on MTK, Probellum, Daniel Kinahan, and eventually Frank Warren. He started saying, oh, me and Frank said this time around we're not paying Daniel anything. Frank had to come out and say, I had no dealings with you paying Daniel anything. This guy's just throwing everybody in the loop. Like, yeah, they're all heavily involved with Daniel. Even Frank, who's supposed to be, in theory, a partner. He even threw Tyson Fury in there. Because Fury today said he hasn't done no business with Daniel for how long? For years. He didn't get the AJ fight done and that was it. But there's Bob, dry snitching on anything and everybody. I'm surprised he didn't bring Eddie Hearn's name up there. Because I'm just going to say something crazy. Tyson's deal is up with Bob Arum. It's up. Let's say he beats Dillian. Let's say AJ beats Usyk. Well, let's hope AJ beats Usyk, right? The undisputed heavyweight title fight, all British showdown, live on Eurosport. Probellum. It's not as far-fetched as you might think. It really isn't. And look, I'm not saying it would 100% happen, but if you think that the movers and shakers who are relevant in the game, the established players, are not thinking about the stuff that I'm putting out to you or speculating it, then you're really naive. You're really naive. Yo, you're cutting in on our game. We have to stop you. Tyson Fury is saying he's going to retire after this fight. You really believe he's going to retire? He's not going to retire. And unless Bob pulls out the biggest contract in the history of recorded professional boxing, Daniel Kinahan's in there. He's in there. Do you know how grateful Tyson Fury is to Daniel Kinahan? Do you know a lot of people like the media and a lot of avenues were blocked for Tyson Fury after that PED case? Daniel is the reason why Tyson Fury is boxing, according to some people. That's why he didn't 100% denounce Daniel Kinahan.
Okay, now to the fight that Tyson Fury says will be his last, and the world heavyweight champion has moved to distance himself from links with alleged crime boss Daniel Kinahan. The Irishman was sanctioned by the US government last week for supposed illegal activity, but he has always denied any wrongdoing.
Well, Kinahan's links with sport, especially top-level boxing, have been under intense scrutiny. But Fury claims those issues are none of his business, and he's told Sky Sports News he's too busy thinking about beating Dillian Whyte in front of almost 100,000 fans at Wembley on Saturday night.
What kind of shape are you in mentally and physically going into this fight?
Mentally, physically, emotionally, I'm in fantastic shape. I've had a good training camp. That's it really. There's not much more I can say. Everything's gone accordingly. That's it.
What kind of occasion do you think it's going to be on Saturday? I mean, 94,000 people at Wembley Stadium, record crowd. First time for a long time that you fought on home soil.
I think it's going to be absolutely fantastic, 94,000 screaming Brits. All well oiled up on the night. It's going to be a night to remember for sure.
And what kind of challenge do you think Dillian Whyte is going to pose? How dangerous do you think he's going to be?
He's as dangerous as any heavyweight out there. He's coming in hungry. He wants to win this fight. It's his big shot at the opportunity of being champion of the world. And he's as dangerous as anybody else, let's just say that.
How do you think he'll approach the fight? A lot of people have been saying it's going to be a real sort of clash of styles between the two of you, that you've got the superior boxing skills.
I don't really know, to be fair. Whatever A game he brings, I'll bring one, and the best man will win on the night. I don't really anticipate what the opponent's going to do. I just go in there and do what I have to do, and hopefully it'll be good enough, and if not, then we won't cry about it. We'll go out and have a glass of beer and go home.
And what do you think of the way he's approached the build-up to the fight?
Again, that's his business, not mine. That's it.
Did you think you've got inside his head at all?
I don't think that's really relevant, getting in the heads and all that sort of stuff. I haven't seen the guy, I spoke to him, so not seen him in years actually.
And just talking about the occasion then, on Saturday, will it be more special for you fighting in front of home fans? Because it's a long time since they've been able to see you live in action.
Yeah, it's going to be very special, It's been a while. I've been away for a minute, but I'm back now. I'm looking forward to a great night of boxing.
And also, obviously, we had the situation last week when the US authorities announced that Daniel Kinahan was sanctioned. What was your relationship with him, and what's your relationship going to be going forward?
I've just had a million questions about all this rubbish before, but like I said to them, it's none of my business, and I don't get involved in other people's business, so it doesn't really concern me.
But was he involved at all in this fight?
No involvement.
And do you still speak to him? Is he still somebody that is close to you? Will you speak to him?
He's not my father, let's just say that.
And obviously, a lot has been made of the fact that you were pictured with him in February. Does that suggest that you are still close to him?
To be honest, I've never been close to anybody apart from my wife and my kids. So there we are.
But, I mean, it's obviously a serious matter. I mean, the US...
But again, it's none of my concern and none of my interest.
But it was somebody that you had business dealings with. Did you regret being close to him?
Like I say, none of my interest and none of my concern at all. I don't regret anything. Life's too short for regrets. But like I say, none of my business and none of my concern.
And will you
Somebody asked me about Ukraine recently. None of my concern or business. It's nothing to do with me. I keep my own business to myself.
But the difference between that and Ukraine is that obviously Daniel Kinahan is somebody that you've had a personal and business relationship with.
Yeah, but I've also had a personal business relationship with Vladimir Klitschko, haven't I? Don't forget we made each other millions of dollars. There you go. So it's the same, isn't it?
No, I mean, it's slightly different because you don't have a personal involvement with the war in Ukraine and what is happening there, whether this is something that you have had a personal involvement with somebody that the US authorities
Okay,
are saying
and what do you want me to do about that?
No, I mean, I'm just asking you whether...
And I've told you 3 times, it's nothing to do with me and I don't care.
But it obviously was something that was to do with you in the past.
No, it's never... What a man does in his own business is none of my concern. I'm a boxing man. I don't get involved in anybody's business at all. If you want done whatever you've done, I don't care what you do. It's none of my concern. I'm only concerned about what I do. And I don't do anything apart from box. End of.
And going forward, after having seen what the US authorities have said, will you be severing all ties with him?
What the US have said, and that's it. We have to listen to the government, and that's what we do. End of. Because I don't want to get in trouble with the US government, which I've never have been, and that's it.
So you won't be dealing with him business-wise going forward?
I haven't done any dealing business with him in the last for a long time. I think there was a statement released in 2020, so that was the end of the business. The fight with Joshua didn't happen, and that was it.
But Bob Arum said that he'd made more than $1 million from
I've
4
seen
of
that.
your fights.
Yeah.
So he was involved in those fights.
What Bob Arum does with his own money is Bob Arum's business. If he goes and spends it on gummy bears or cans of pop, I don't care what he does with it. He's got plenty to give out. So what Bob does with his own money ain't my concern, is it? So when you get paid your wages and you go spend it on whatever you spend it on, that's not my concern, is it? Because it's not my money.
And just a final question, going forward, you're the heavyweight champion of the world.
Yeah.
You're a role model, an idol to millions of people around the world. Surely this is something that you need to distance yourself from?
I think it's going to be a great fight on the night. And I'm not here to talk politics, war or religion with you. He's trying to probe for me to say something. I'm not interested in other people's concerns. I'm not interested. Don't care. None of my business at all. I'm a boxing man. I've got a fight to think about. And that's enough said. Thank you very much. I won't be doing any more interviews with Sky. Thank you. Good night.
If Tyson Fury decides to fight on, he's going to have to go with the old established promoters. And that's Bob Arum, Frank Warren, or Eddie Hearn. I doubt he'll go to the PBC. I doubt it very much. You can throw any one of a few names in the hat. Probellum rivals who would have incentive to make sure that Tyson Fury does no more business with MTK, Daniel Kinahan, and doesn't become the flagship player for Probellum. Oh yeah. You know, because look, let's say the undisputed fight doesn't end up on Probellum. Let's say Eddie Hearn and Anthony Joshua. No, we're not going to go on Eurosport. You guys have to either follow us to the Zone or the Sky pay-per-view platform. Fury, Kinahan, they might just say, well, fuck you. We can just go and defend our belt on Eurosport. We don't need to fight you on the Zone or Sky. We have our own platform like you have yours. Why not? They can do pay-per-view on there. All the pieces are in place. They've got a broadcaster. That's the main thing you need. A broadcaster. They've got a broadcaster. A broadcaster and a franchise player. Tyson Fury. That's all the components you need to start ching 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 ching. They were about to be legit players in a game. I know I'm going to have someone in the comment section, oh, you're talking shit. You guys, listen. You're not ready. You don't understand what you're dealing with here.